Senator Scott.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Senator. Thank you for meeting with me on such a busy day yesterday.
Absolutely enjoyed it very much. We both served on county council, so I know that we both
Rubber hits the road.
understand that we have to get things done. I know that you said during our meeting that you would spend your first 100 days or so doing a listening tour, understanding that the #1 priority in our country is jobs, jobs, and jobs, that you would spend the first 100 days listening to those of us around the table here, other senators, members of Congress, as well as people within your department. Do you plan to honor that commitment?
Absolutely, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much. One of the things that I've heard said about you consistently here, which is really good news from a perspective that you are fair, balanced, and open. And I will tell you that my state has really experienced very little fairness and openness and a balanced approach from different agencies and departments within the federal government. And that gives me reason to pause. And so my questions are more about your management style and what we can expect out of you going forward, because we have great concerns when we look back at things like the NLRB that we discussed yesterday. I understand that it's not in your would not be in your purview, but you have had an impact on my state as well. When we think about the case of the NLRB versus Boeing, one of the things that we did not experience as South Carolinians was an open environment, fairness, or anything that looked like a balanced approach to figuring out the direction of the NLRB. It seemed to us that without any question, the NLRB made a decision to eliminate, destroy, take away 6,000 jobs from our state. Without any question, they were willing to destroy a $1 billion investment in South Carolina. And they were absolutely looking to pick winners and losers. And there are two cases that come to mind from my perspective as a South Carolinian that I question your management style going forward that comes out of the Department of Justice. And it goes to the heart of what seemed to be a politically charged environment that seems to lead to cases and directions in the DOJ. The Inspector General said, without any question, highly critical, that the politically charged atmosphere and polarization within the voting section increases backlogs request in voting section. And the dysfunctional management chain under your leadership also states that the voting section's handling of the new Black Panther case under you risked undermining confidence in the non-ideological enforcement of the voting rights laws. And so what we experienced, of course, through the voters ID case was something that was akin to that management style that we find distasteful. Gives me great concern as I think of the comments of the Inspector General as well as the experience that we've had. Now, we all understand that South Carolina has been treated unfairly in many ways as it relates to the voting rights law. We look at the fact that in our delegation, when the case was brought against our voter ID law, that one-third of the congressional delegation in South Carolina were African Americans, highest percentage in the country, I believe. The overall delegation today is still at 22%, the highest diversity from an African American perspective in the country outside of Georgia, puts us #2. But what we experienced was in a place where 90% of African American voters, 91.6% of white voters had valid IDs already. That in 9 other states, where 3 states were pre-cleared, 6 did not have to go through the process, that your department decided to challenge our voters' ID case. We find that the cost to our state, $3.5 million, we find that alarming. As I look at your management style, it seems to have a political perspective, a political bias in the management style. It seems not to be open, not to be balanced, and certainly not to be fair. And as we went through the case, it seems that even at the end of the case, when the ruling was in our favor as a state, not only did we have to spend the $3.5 million, but in January of 2013, the DOJ shows up once again, and even after losing the case, it seems like the political vitriol was so high that they decided to come to Branchville. You guys came to Branchville, South Carolina, population 800 people. And you spent thousands of dollars looking at the voting procedures as it relates to our voter ID law. And without any question, we had already won the case, and yet even in spite of the victory that we won in courts, the DOJ comes back to our state with a political bias, from my perspective, to take a look at a very small 200-person turnout case. My question is there in fact the ability to have a open, balanced, fair approach in the Department of Labor when in fact it seems like to me so consistent has been a politically charged environment in the Department of Justice?
Senator, I have always adopted a management style that is open, inclusive, that recruits the right people, gives them the authority to move forward, and applies the facts to the law in an even-handed fashion. So I respectfully disagree with your characterization of what we have done. I would note, in connection with the new Black Panther Party matter that you referred, not one but two different entities, the Office of Professional Responsibility and the Office of the Inspector General.
As it relates to the voters' ID case, how would you look at the three states that were pre-cleared without any question? New Hampshire's law is very similar to ours.
Well, Senator, we did pre-clear New Hampshire, and we did pre-clear Virginia.
But not ours.
And let me quote from the decision of the court in the South Carolina matter, which, and this was an opinion written by Judge Bates, an appointee of...
The decision was, in fact, in the favor of South Carolina. So since we're out of time, my only question to you is, can we expect a more open, a more fair, and a more balanced approach from you as the head of the Department of Labor?
Sir, I believe that I have been always open and fair, and I will continue to do so.
We would, of course, disagree, but so we can or cannot expect a more open, fair, and balanced approach.
You will always have a person who has an open and balanced approach, and I will continue to apply the facts to the law, and I will continue to do so.
We're out of time. So the fact of the matter is the facts of the law led to a conclusion that South Carolina's voter ID law was, in fact, legal, that our approach to that law was fine. The fact that you came in afterwards in January 2013 to take a second look at something that had already been decided, no matter the statement that you would make, the fact of the matter is that South Carolina has been a state on the fast track to creating racial parity, on the fast track to making sure that all of our citizens have an opportunity to participate in the process of voting. And I just want to make sure that your approach in the DOL will be one that is fair, open, and in fact balanced.
And as the court mentioned,
reclaiming my time, I'm done. Thank you very much.
Senator, I just wanted to quote from the court opinion in the South Carolina case, because the question was whether our actions there were appropriate. And this is the court opinion written by Judge Bates, an appointee of President George W. Bush, who said, and I quote, "To state the obvious, the act passed by South Carolina, as now pre-cleared, is not the act enacted in May 2011. It is understandable that the Attorney General of the United States would raise serious concerns about South Carolina's voter photo ID law as it then stood." That's not Tom Perez speaking. That's the opinion of the court in the voter ID case. And there's every expectation after you reach an agreement that you will go and conduct monitoring. We do that in every case in which we reach an agreement. And that's why we were there in January.
And Mr. Perez, I am looking forward to having the opportunity to see a fair, balanced approach come to our state. And that's one of the reasons why I took very seriously the Inspector General's comment as it relates to a politically charged atmosphere and polarization within the voting section. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir. And again, thank you for meeting with me yesterday.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it.